Meditation and nihilism. If meditation is merely noticing what has been happening all along, does this mean that we technically always already are in equanimity? If so, what is the purpose of meditation? Also, what is the purpose of anything if there exists no suffering and no joy? That's 3 questions. Let's move through this systematically. First question. If meditation is merely noticing what has always been happening all along, does this mean that we are technically always already in equanimity? No. Basically, this is just a confusion with the wording we've probably heard. The equanimous realization we're having through meditation is something about the nature of our consciousness, or the nature of our being, or the nature of what it's like to be us in every single moment. Since it is an underlying aspect to what it is like to be us all the time, it means that we have the possibility to realize this equanimous way of being in the world all the time, that we are us. So the ultimate realization of meditation is so amazing because it's compatible with the rest of our lives. But until we realize that insight and then sustain it throughout the rest of our lives, we aren't necessarily equanimous. It's always accessible because it's about the nature of being us, and we're always us, we're always conscious. It's about the nature of consciousness, but unless we realize how to access that, we very much have meaningful moments of not being equanimous. Second question, what is the purpose of meditation? Well, now it becomes very obvious. The purpose of meditation is to have this insight and then develop the ability to sustain this insight throughout our lives. There are many other meaningful reasons to meditate as well. This is just one particular insight we can glean through meditation, which has a lot of utility for reducing suffering, because this equanimous insight is not compatible with suffering. If we have that insight, we can reduce the amount of suffering we experience significantly. But it's also just an interesting thing to understand about the nature of being us. That could be another meaning to it. And general meditation could just be a more meaningful way to relax or calm our mind, or learn how to put our attention where we value it the most in our daily interactions. So there's heaps of reasons. That's not the sole reason to meditate, but it's a pretty profound one because a lot of the modern world hasn't been having many conversations about it. It's been hidden in ancient traditions for quite some time. These days it's coming over into modern conversations more and more. 3, what is the purpose of anything if there's no suffering or joy? Well, I just think there still is a lot of purpose. Obviously, if we transcend judgment, our experience of meaning is going to change significantly, because we'll no longer be relating to judgments or goals or the future in the same way as we always have. But just because we transcend suffering and joy doesn't mean there's not still ample motivation to move towards the betterment of everyone else. I think a lot of these conceptual projections about really meaning really break down when we look at the reality. The reality is currently we probably experience ample amounts of suffering, or moments in our life which don't feel as amplified in the amount of meaning they could have. So, we don't even need to worry about that question. There's a lot of reason to practice meditation, probably, and this might not be the case for you, but as for me, there's a lot of reason to practice meditation right now, to experience less suffering for me, make my moments of my life much more meaningful, and definitely in consideration to what I said before, and seeing that there's all these other people out there in the world which would potentially really benefit from having a skill of reducing suffering, and they'd also really benefit from me being able to be more peaceful in a room, have less moments of being egoic, and more moments of peaceful presence and compassion. So in that sense, there's tremendous amounts of meaning left. And when I connect to that as my highest value, because I think meaning it's hard to talk about ambiguously, but if we just put in a value, it gets a lot clearer, If one of our values, and therefore one of our meanings in the world, is that we acknowledge that it's not nice to suffer, and therefore we don't want others to suffer, meditation has a lot of utility here. And so then that's one thing we probably want to invest our time into. And hopefully it's one thing we can pursue in accordance with what other purposes or meanings or pursuits we might conceptually look at the world and hypothetically value them as things that we should move towards. So I think that responds to those three questions, and good on you for pursuing and making them clear in your head, because I think that's really important. In meditation we can get hooked in thinking that it's all about the experience or not about the thought. I think they're both completely compatible and have ultimate utility in us living a really examined life and experiencing the benefits of an examined life ourselves, and hopefully seeing a transforming examined world. I think the modern philosophical insights really support the world in a way we naturally want to see it. Life is full of meaning. We have to acknowledge we don't like to suffer. We wouldn't like others to suffer, so we have to move towards that. And any moment we're not, we're sort of just lying to ourselves. And there are insights in meditation which just have a really strong amount of utility towards realizing one of these purposes that we might have on earth about reducing suffering, and amongst all the other glorious things that we might want to express and explore. And then generally, if it's ending suffering that we're particularly narrowing in on, there's still every other very important ethical conversation about how we should be behaving, and to realize that meditation is one strand, and then there's every other single piece of ethics which is just as important. So I hope this maybe cleared things up for you, and thank you for this very precise question, because I think one of the main challenges we face against humanity and existence on earth in general is our lack of specificity and responsibility in our conduct as humans, acknowledging how we obviously want the world to manifest and be in the future. And given that that's probably the truth, these conversations should probably be happening way more than they are. Because if we connect deeply to the profound opportunity of what we can realize as conscious beings on this planet, I think our path forward of our conduct gets very clear, very precise, in beautiful ways. Fantastic curiosity, my friend. May we all come to know such wonderful ways of being.
If Sonam has helped you, please consider supporting for the benefit of others. Establishing a base engagement is the biggest hurdle for new ideas.